Last August, I got called out to a ranch house over a brown ring on a living room ceiling, round as a dinner plate, sitting right over the couch. The homeowner had already paid a roofer $200 to walk his shingles, and that roofer told him the roof was fine. So he called a plumber next, because a leak means pipes, right? I stood in that living room and looked up for about 10 seconds. Then I asked him one question. Is your air handler up in the attic? And is it sitting right about there? It was. Almost dead center over that stain. That ring had nothing to do with his roof. Nothing to do with his water lines either. That was his air conditioner. And I'll tell you, in August, 9 times out of 10, a fresh brown ring on a ceiling is the air conditioner and not the roof. Here is the part that stings. The thing that would have prevented it costs about a quarter. Not a service call, not a special tool. A quarter's worth of something already sitting in your kitchen cabinet, poured in one spot once a month. Uncle Ray showed me this in a crawl space back in 1994, with the sweat running off his chin, and I have poured it every summer since. I'm going to show you what that cup is, exactly where it goes, and how to tell whether your line is already sliming shut. Stay with me for the checks near the end, because those are the ones that save the ceiling. Item 1. Your air conditioner is really a dehumidifier that happens to blow cold air. Most folks picture the air conditioner as a machine that makes cold. It doesn't. It moves heat out of the house, and it pulls water out of the air the whole time it's doing it. Inside your house, there's a box called the air handler, or a furnace with a coil sitting on top of it. Inside that box is the evaporator coil, which is a radiator that gets ice cold. Your warm, humid house air blows across it. The moisture in that air condenses on the cold metal, the same way a glass of iced tea sweats on the porch in July. Now here's the number that surprises people. A central system in a humid climate pulls between 5 and 20 gallons of water a day out of your house air. 20 gallons. That's 4 5-gallon buckets a day, running through a box in your attic or your hall closet. Uncle Ray used to say an air conditioner is a water pump with a fan bolted to it. He wasn't far off, so the question was never whether there's water up there. There's always water. The question is where it goes on the day the pipe stops carrying it. Item 2, number 2, where all that water is supposed to go. Under that cold coil sits a drain pan, sometimes called the drip pan. Every drop that condenses runs down the fins and lands in it. Out of that pan comes the condensate line. On nearly every residential system in this country, that's 3/4-inch PVC. White plastic pipe, about as big around as your thumb. No pump on it most of the time. It runs on gravity and gravity alone, which means it needs steady downhill slope the whole way. Right off the pan, there's usually a trap, which is just a U-shaped dip in the pipe that holds a little water. That water plug stops the blower from pulling air backward up the drain. Same idea as the trap under your kitchen sink. From there, the line goes one of 3 places. Out through the wall to a short stub near the foundation, and that's the most common by far. Into a laundry standpipe or a floor drain. Or, if the handler sits lower than the drain point, into a little condensate pump that lifts it out. And if your handler is in the attic, most places require a second pan underneath the whole unit with its own second line. And that one dumps somewhere, you will notice. Hold on to that. It comes back later. Item 3. Why that pipe slimes shut every single summer. Think about what that line actually is. It's dark inside. It's wet all day long. And it sits in a hot attic or a warm closet in the middle of summer. That is exactly what algae and bacteria are looking for. And they get fed too. Dust, skin cells, pet dander, and pollen right along in your return air, and some of it always slips past the filter, lands on that wet coil, and washes down into the pan. That's dinner. What grows is a slime. Trade guys call it biofilm, which is just a colony of the stuff glued to the pipe wall. Week 1, it's a smear you'd never notice. By week 4, it's a mat. By the middle of August, it's a plug. And I mean a plug that is not going anywhere on its own. I pulled one out of a house in Georgia that came out whole and hit the bottom of my shop vac tank like a wet sock. Green and gray, 6 inches long, holding the shape of the pipe it grew in. And here's the part people skip. That growth doesn't happen in the winter. It happens in the exact months you're running the system hardest, when a backup does the most damage, so the trick was never clearing the plug. The trick is never letting the mat form. Item 4, number 4. The cup. 1 cup of plain white vinegar. That's it. That's the whole secret. The cheap gallon jug of white vinegar off the bottom shelf at the grocery store, $3 or $4. Distilled white vinegar is about 5% acetic acid. Mild acid. Strong enough to kill algae and loosen the film before it knits together into a mat. Gentle enough that it will not touch PVC, will not hurt the glue joints, and will not eat a metal drain pan. 1 cup, once a month. May through September for most of the country, and year-round if you're down on the Gulf Coast running the system in January. Do the math with me. A gallon jug is 16 cups. 1 jug covers 3 summers. Call it $3 a season. Against what? A blocked condensate line means an HVAC service call, $150 to $300 to have a man drive out and vacuum a pipe. And if it backs up into the ceiling before you catch it, now you're buying drywall, insulation, texture, and paint. $500 on the light end. $2,500 and up if it sat long enough to grow mold behind the sheetrock. $3 a season. Between you and me, I have never found a better trade in this business. Item 5. Why you never pour bleach down that line. Somebody watching is already typing it. Just use bleach. It kills everything. I know it does. Don't. Pull out the paperwork that came with your air handler sometime. Nearly every manufacturer says the same thing. No chlorine bleach in the condensate system, because it's hard on their equipment. Here's what it actually does. Chlorine goes after metal. Your drain pan may be sheet metal or galvanized steel, and the coil sitting above it is aluminum fins on copper tubing. Bleach vapor coming off that line hangs in the pan and works on all of it. I stuck my head into a return closet a few summers back and found a pan rusted through in 2 spots on a system that was 9 years old because the homeowner had been pouring bleach in it twice a month like clockwork. It also goes after the solvent glue at the pipe joints over time, and those joints are the only thing holding your line together. Vinegar does the same job without the damage. Slower, gentler, and it corrodes nothing in that cabinet. Same reason I don't want drain cleaner going in there either. Wrong chemical, wrong pipe, wrong place. That cup of vinegar is the whole idea behind a book I put together. 101 Ways to Unclog Any Drain. Cheap stuff already in your cabinet, doing work you would otherwise pay for. The link waits in the description below, or scan the code on your screen. Subscribe to the Vintage Pipe Fitter for more old-school know-how that saves you real money every week. Item 6. Finding the access T. So where does the cup actually go? On the condensate line, usually within a couple feet of the air handler, there's a fitting shaped like the letter T. The drain runs through the bottom of it, and one leg points straight up with a cap on it. That's your access T. It's there so somebody can pour something in or run a wire down. The cap will be one of 3 things: a glued PVC cap somebody left loose, a threaded plug you turn out by hand, or a black rubber cap with a small hose clamp, and that's the one I like best because it comes off in 10 seconds with a nut driver. Where do you look? Attic, right beside the air handler. Utility closet, garage, basement ceiling. Follow that white 3/4-inch pipe away from the pan and the T will be the first thing sticking up out of it. Some installs don't have one at all. If yours doesn't, that's a 20-minute job with a hacksaw, a T-fitting, 2 couplings, and a can of PVC cement under $15 at the hardware store. And if cutting into a live drain line isn't your idea of a Saturday, any HVAC tech will add one at your next tune-up. Item 7. The monthly pour, step by step. Here's the whole ritual, start to finish. First, shut the system down. Thermostat to off, then kill the breaker to the air handler. 2 minutes of waiting keeps the blower from pulling your vinegar sideways. Second, lay a towel under the T. There's water sitting in that line, and some of it will find your shirt. Third, take the cap off and look down in there with a flashlight. Clear pipe, good. But if you see standing water sitting in that T and not moving, stop right there. Your line is already blocked, and vinegar will not push through it. Skip ahead to the vacuum, then come back to this. Fourth, pour the cup in slow. A cheap funnel with a foot of 1/4-inch tubing on it makes this a one-hand job in a tight attic. I keep mine zip-tied to the platform next to the handler so I'm never hunting for it. Fifth, let it sit 20 to 30 minutes. That soak is the part doing the killing. Sixth, cap back on, breaker back on, thermostat back to cool. 5 minutes of your life, once a month. Do it the same day you change the filter and you'll never have to think about it again. Item 8. Go outside and look at the stub. This is the check almost nobody does, and it's the one that tells you the truth about your line. Somewhere outside your house, usually near the outdoor condenser unit or under a window, there's a short piece of white 3/4-inch PVC coming out of the wall and turning down toward the ground. That's the tail end of your condensate line. On a hot, muggy afternoon, with the system running an hour or better, walk out there and look at it. It should be dripping. Steady drips or a thin trickle, and on a really humid day, it might run like a faucet barely cracked open. A wet spot in the dirt underneath. Maybe a green algae stain on the siding below. All good news. That's your system throwing water out of the house the way it should. Now the other version. Bone-dry stub, muggy day, system running hard. That is not a system that isn't making water. Every system makes water. That's water backing up somewhere behind it. A dry stub in July is a warning light. You've got a week or two before that pan spills over, and sometimes less. Item 9. The shop vacuum pull. If that stub came up dry, or you found standing water in the T, here's how you clear it. And you already own the tool. Wet, dry vacuum. Any size will do. Take the paper filter out first, because you're about to pull water and you'll ruin it. Put the hose right up against the end of that stub and seal around the joint. A rag wrapped around it and squeezed with your hand works fine. Duct tape works. They also sell a little rubber adapter for about $5 that slips over the pipe and clamps to your hose, worth having if you plan to do this every year. Run it 1 to 2 minutes, not 30 seconds. Then shut it off and go look in the tank. You want to see water in there. Dirty water, gray sludge, sometimes a length of slime that comes out whole. I've had it come out looking like cold oatmeal. That's your clog sitting in the vacuum instead of your sealing. Do it twice to be sure. Then go back inside to the T and pour your cup of vinegar to kill whatever is still clinging to the walls. That's a $150 to $300 service call. You just did yourself in 10 minutes. Item 10. Number 10. The $15 part that stops the flood. Everything up to here is prevention. This one is the backstop for the day prevention doesn't happen because you were traveling, or you just plain forgot. It's called a float switch. Some folks call it a safety switch or a wet switch. Small plastic box with a float inside. When water rises where it shouldn't, that float lifts and breaks the low voltage circuit that tells your system to run. System shuts off. No cool air. You call somebody and you're aggravated. But you're aggravated with a dry ceiling over your head. Two common styles. One sits down in the secondary pan under an attic unit and trips when that pan starts holding water. The other threads into the drain line itself, usually right at the T, and trips when water backs up inside the pipe. $15 to $30 at any supply house. And a whole lot of older installs. Anything out of the 90s and plenty from the 2000s. Simply don't have one. The wiring is two low-voltage thermostat wires in series. If that sentence made you uneasy, don't guess at it. Have the HVAC tech at it at your next tune-up. It's 20 minutes of his time. $15 against a $2,500 ceiling. That is not a close call. Item 11. Number 11. Look in the pan and look under the unit. While you're up there with the flashlight anyway, spend 2 more minutes. Look into the drain pan under the coil. You want clean metal or clean plastic and a little clear water moving toward the drain. What you don't want is standing water going nowhere, brown sludge packed in the corners, or rust. Rust is the one to take seriously. A metal pan rusts from the inside out, starting in the low corner where the water sits. Once it perforates, the water doesn't reach your drain line at all. It goes straight through the bottom of the pan onto whatever is below, quietly, for weeks. Then look for the secondary pan under the whole air handler if you're in an attic. Big, shallow pan, usually galvanized. It should be dry, bone dry. Water in it means your primary drain is already failing, and that pan is doing its job right now. And the secondary pan's drain line, if you have one, exits the house somewhere. You'll see it. Over a window or the front door on purpose. If you ever see water dripping out of a pipe above a window, that is not a plumbing leak. That's your air conditioner telling you it's in trouble. Item 12. The money and the line I don't cross. Let's put the whole thing on one page. Vinegar, $3 a season. Float switch, $15 to $30 once. Shop vac, you already own it. Total damage, call it $35 the first year and $3 a year after that. Now what it stands between you and an emergency HVAC call to clear a line, $150 to $300, and they're booked solid the week you need them. Or the ceiling itself. Drywall, insulation, texture, paint, $500 on the light end, $2,500 and up once mold gets in behind it. Now the honest part, because I'm not going to pretend everything in that closet is yours to touch. Refrigerant lines, the compressor, anything sealed. That's a licensed HVAC tech with a recovery machine and an EPA card. Not you. Hardwired power at the disconnect. Same answer. And if you've already got a sagging wet ceiling, or you're smelling must in that room, call your insurance company before you call anybody else. Same as I always tell you. Gas lines, the main sewer, anything needing a permit that belongs to a licensed man. Knowing where your end of the job stops is part of doing it right. Last thing. My book, 101 Ways to Unclog Any Drain, covers everything with a drain under your roof. Kitchen sink and disposal, bathroom, tub, shower, toilet, laundry, floor drains, the main line. Each fix in there is a $150 to $400 plumber visit you never make. Grab it from the description. And stick around here at the Vintage Pipe Fitter, where old trade knowledge keeps your money where it belongs. One bonus before you go, and this one's for the basement folks. If your air handler sits in a basement, lower than the pipe carrying the water away, gravity can't do the job and you've got a condensate pump. Little white box about the size of a lunchbox under the unit with a small clear tube running up and out. That pump has a tank, and that tank grows the same slime your line does. It's got its own float inside, and when that float gums up, the pump either runs forever or won't run at all. Either way, the tank goes over onto your basement floor. Same medicine. Once a month, unplug it, pop the lid, pour a cup of vinegar in the tank. Let it sit half an hour. Plug it back in and listen for it to cycle. And look at that little clear tube while you're down there. When it goes green and cloudy inside, the algae is building. 60 cents of vinegar, same as upstairs. That's the whole job. See you next time.